too. So I'm Nikki Brown. I'm the Senior Beauty Editor for STYLECASTER. Woo! I've probably met a lot of you already at our beauty bar. If you haven't stopped by, make sure you do right after this panel. But I'm really excited to be here. We're gonna have a great conversation about inclusion, which is obviously super important, and I'm very happy to have these beautiful ladies here killing it in the coral and yellow. I'm gonna allow them to introduce themselves, and if we have time, we're gonna do a Q&A at the end, so if you have some questions that come up, make sure you save them. So I'll let you guys intro.
Hello, everybody. How y'all doing tonight or this afternoon? Doing good? Get a little louder. How y'all doing? Can't hear you? All right, there we go. Hi, everyone. My name is Ofunne Amaka. I run a platform called Cocoa Swatches. It's essentially swatching on dark skin. So if you have a little bit of melanin in your skin tone, I create content that kind of helps you navigate the beauty space. So I have a mobile app. Cocoa Swatches is COCOA Swatches on all my social media channels, and I just launched a foundation finder called The Basics, where you can kind of take a questionnaire and get matched with a foundation shade, because I think we all know what it's like to go into Sephora and walk out looking ashy or gray. So yeah, that's me.
Hi guys. Wait, can you guys hear me? Okay, I hear myself. My name is Yaminah Mayo. I have a platform called Spicy Mayo. And I'm also a culture, fashion writer, model, and content creator like many of you. Since I started my platform, I've worked with brands such as Gap, Free People. I was just in the inaugural launch of Tracee Ellis Ross's new pattern campaign. So I don't know. Thank you, y'all. So yeah, that's me. Yeah.
Cool. So before we get started, I just have to preface the conversation by saying, obviously, this is a very nuanced topic, and we're not going to be able to solve all the problems with this couple minutes conversation, but we sort of just want this to be a starting point, and we want to sort of move the conversation forward. So, obviously, when we think inclusion in the beauty space, we think foundation shades. This brand has 50 shades, and this shade has 40 shades, and but that's not what inclusion, that's not what the definition specifically is. I think it's sort of been muddled with marketing and as diversity being presented as a trend, which it is definitely not. So how do each of you define the word inclusion?
For me, inclusion is really something that includes kind of a holistic view of the word. So when I say that, like if I'm looking at a brand and I want to kind of determine whether they're inclusive or not, I'm going to not only look at their foundation shade range, but let's just keep it on product. What types of blushes do you have? Do you have lipsticks that suit different types of skin tones? And then past that, if I look at your social media pages, what types of people are on there? Is that diverse? And then going even past that, who's behind the scenes? Who are you hiring? Do you have any women of color or people of color chemists in your lab? Do you have people that are diverse working on the marketing or the creative? So it really, to me, inclusion means that you are not only including people of different backgrounds, races, and genders, but you're also giving them a voice, actually enabling them to make their voices heard and make actual decisions. So.
When I'm thinking about equity, or when I'm thinking about inclusion, I'm thinking about like literally the only word that I want to hear is equity. Because that is something that is still lacking in terms of like, when I look at a campaign, I want to know like who is working, was it, like if I'm going to set and I see that there's no one that looks like me doing my hair, that's a problem. So I want to know like, are the black models, are the people of color, are the trans models being paid fairly? Are they being paid the same as white models? That's basically what I'm looking for, because inclusion is supposed to elicit value, and I want to know that I'm being valued. So that's inclusion.
Snaps, yes. So besides the fact that you both are obviously beautiful black women, how would you say you're specifically living out your definitions of inclusion through your work?
So I think with my platform, I try to not only give people the tools to make the purchasing decisions, but also kind of create community so that it's not just like me telling someone what to do, but someone can also tell a fellow follower or like if you look in my comment section, there's always people helping each other out because it's kind of like this community where, you know, you kind of need that insider info at the times to get kind of that equity to make sure that you're being as paid fairly and getting paid as much as the next person. So I think in terms of living it out, in addition to creating the kind of content that I would want to see as, you know, a little black girl, also creating that community to make sure that there's a dialogue going on between us that's open, that is honest, and that is authentic.
One way that I'm living out like my stance on inclusion is first of all, like whenever I have a campaign that I'm shooting, if I'm doing like a social media campaign, I pay people out of my pocket, even if the company overall doesn't have a budget. I'm paying them what I would get paid for like a half-day shoot, which is anywhere between like $800 and $1,200. Like I'll pay you out of my pocket just so that you know that you can walk away, you can pay your bills the same way that I am. Your bills are due at the same time mine are, at the same time that the companies are. So that's like one of the many ways I feel like I am. Also, I'm not taking up space where I know that I'm not supposed to be taking up space. So like if a company comes to me during Pride, I don't identify as queer, so why would I take up that space when you could give a platform to someone else, you know? So that's one way.
Awesome. So it's kind of funny to actually bring this up, given that this is a panel about equity and inclusion. I wrote a piece on STYLECASTER not too long ago, and just talking about this topic, and I described what I think is diversity fatigue, where as a black woman, especially in the beauty space, you kind of get exhausted with having to explain to people why this is important and why inclusion should just be a part of, it should just be a part of who you are, it should be a part of your brand ethos. And you just get sick of having to explain it sometimes. So I'm interested to know, for you two as content creators, do you ever feel pigeonholed into being a part of maybe projects where inclusion is sort of like the banner put on top of it, or how do you just process this in general?
Well, you definitely get tired of being like the face of diversity, because also a lot of the times brands aren't thinking about like colorism in their practices. So like I am very privileged. So coming on set and everybody's like biracial. I'm 100% black, by the way, but everybody's biracial, everybody's fair skinned, everyone has loose curls, everyone has like a 3C curl pattern. And then we're like the face of diversity when like, those are questions that I've started to begin asking, like, okay, who's gonna be on set with me? Like, what do the other girls look like? If I don't feel like that project is like basically upholding what the message you're trying to send, I won't participate. And I've backed out of campaigns for stuff like that before. Like, I'm sorry, like I can't attach myself to something and then preach another thing. So so you do get exhausted, but there are ways to maneuver that.
Right.
Yeah, I would say, I think at the beginning, you know, I was a lot less selective in what I would give my attention to. You know, I do think that, you know, I mean, there's no way to know 100% whether people use quote unquote black outrage as a marketing strategy, for example.
Right.
You know, when you see things like someone coming out with a foundation that has, you know, 8 light shades and 3 dark ones, it's kind of like, at this point, it's like, do you want to give energy to that? Because what is your promotion or your calling that out actually going to do? If I look at a brand and I don't feel like they're going to respond or they're going to care, I decide not to give my energy to that. I'd much rather be able to talk to some of the brands I have relationships with behind the scenes and be able to say, you know, this was great, but I think you could do this a little bit better. Or if I'm working on a campaign, like, I don't want to be a part of this unless this is done XYZ type of way, or this language would not resonate with my audience, and I don't think it should be used. So I think it's really about being selective with your energy, because when you look at the beauty industry as a whole, there are a lot of things to get pissed off about. I mean, if I'm being completely honest. And so it's about kind of choosing your battles at some point and saying, like, do I feel like putting my attention on this particular issue is going to be worth my time, and is it going to be beneficial for the community that I'm trying to serve? Because at the end of the day, some brands are just not concerned with diversity past what we are talking about, what like that surface 50 Shades thing. And if they're not concerned with it, it's like, let's just not even talk about them. Don't give them any attention. Don't give them any money. They could do whatever they're doing over there for the time being. And I want to focus my energy on uplifting people that are doing it right.
Right. And sort of just piggybacking off what you say, Yaminah, it reminded me, I don't know if Jameh is here, she wrote a piece for StyleCaster.com talking about the natural hair industry and how she's sort of, as a woman with locks, she's experienced, I guess, I don't know what the hair version of colorism is, but she looks at a lot of, there goes Jameh, she looks at a lot of ads and she doesn't see women or men with locks in natural hair ads. So have either of you ever sort of seen that play out in projects that you've been on, where you've seen like inclusion being a problem within minority groups or under?
Well, I don't know how many of you model, but you're really kind of mandated to look the same way all the time because you get jobs very last minute. It could be like Monday you think you're going to the beach, Wednesday you're on set for like 10 hours. And I remember I had like come back from Miami. I've never experienced my hair being like an issue, but I remember I wanted to get my hair braided and I was like really mad because I'm like, oh my God, they're like not paying me enough to like keep my hair the same. And like I really just wanted to get my hair braided. I remember I went on vacation to Miami and I came back and I was shooting with Gap. And I had like these Havana twists in, and they were like very kind of just earthy and like very lived in. And they were like, no, keep them. Like they look really good. And then that was like the second campaign that I had done for them. And it was like really people behind the scenes like pushing for me to like keep them, which was cool. So I've never really experienced it, but I definitely don't see women enough with locks on set, so.
Now, obviously, we want to move the conversation forward, but before we do, Ofunne, I feel like this is something you can really speak to. What do you think brands are getting right and wrong still with complexion products?
Yeah, so I think that, if anyone's paying attention to the beauty industry, like a million foundations have launched this summer, and I would say a bulk of them have had a pretty good shade range. And so I definitely think that, obviously that is moving in the right direction. I will give props to that because it's like for the first time, I think there's a quote by Sir John, I think in an article in Allure where he's like, for the first time, Black women have 2 to 3 options of foundation like ever. So the fact that, it's kind of sad that it took this long, but it's also like a lot of people are finally experiencing choice. But in the same breath, I think that because this is a group that is new to kind of complexion and having that choice, there's kind of a lack of education. I feel like brands kind of should make more of an effort to kind of help people, like, what's my undertone? What shade do I choose? What type of finish is best for my skin type? I feel like a lot of people, I get a lot of questions on, how do I find my shade? And it's like, it's already hard enough when you're standing in front of somebody trying to help them find it. So it's like I try my best to create things that help people online, but there's only so much that I could do from, behind a screen. So I feel like, if a brand wants to kind of reach this market and tap into them, I think education could be better. And then again, it goes back to like the product choice of the brand. If someone is introduced to a brand by foundations, you would hope that there were other things from the brand that someone with a darker complexion, for example, could purchase, and that's just not always the case. So to me, it seems like a missed opportunity when I see some of these new brands coming out with like 50, 60 shades of foundation, but then there's nothing else. There's nothing else there for them. So I feel like that's like right and wrong kind of in the same breath. And I think we've kind of touched on it, but it's like that diversity play that doesn't feel authentic when we see kind of the campaigns that kind of look very nice and we see different types of people in them, but maybe your actual experience with the website is not optimal. Or like I said, if you go on their social media pages and they're only posting one type of influencer or one type of model, because you do see that where it's like they might sell 40, 50 shades, but if you look at any of their media advertising, you would never know that because they don't really make it known to people. So it's not enough to just say, oh yeah, we have it. It's kind of like you kind of have to embody it within every single thing that you do. Yeah.
And I always say as an editor, I get like bombarded with emails all the time, anytime anything new comes out. And I always say, if a brand pitches you and they have to point out that they are diverse or that they're championing diversity, then something isn't right there, and you should probably look into it some more before you say, yes to working with them. But speaking of working with brands, Yaminah, in this like new era of inclusivity, has your interaction with brands changed? Has the way they pitch changed? Has the negotiation process changed at all?
Definitely, because I feel like, again, a lot of brands want to be seen as diverse. They want you to look at them as, oh, I should work with them because they're doing this new push for diversity. But for the most part, the most inclusive brands have never had to announce it. The most inclusive brands that I've worked with, I can show up to set and they have people, everyone, different people of color, all backgrounds, all races, heading departments. They don't have to announce themselves. It's not a trend for them. It's kind of become normal practice for them. So, yeah, that's...
So, again, going beyond makeup, and you both have sort of touched on this already, but again, what are some other things that we need to consider when it comes to inclusion besides making complexion products for women or just makeup wearers of all shades?
I think the community aspect in terms of like helping each other up. So like you said, you pay people out your own pocket when you know they're not getting, oh, sorry, I hope y'all can hear me. You pay people out your own pocket when you know they're not getting paid because it's like you know how it was for you, so you don't want the next person to kind of have that experience. And I feel like that aspect, it shouldn't be all on us, but I feel like as someone who has a platform, that aspect is really important. As an influencer, whether it's amplifying other makeup artists, other people that are aspiring to be a quote-unquote influencer or a beauty content creator, and then also using your voice behind the scenes when you do see something that's wrong, because you do have a little bit of power there. Like if you do see something that isn't right, or like, when you see these campaigns and you're wondering like, how did that get to print, or how did that get approved? And so it's like, if you do see something, say something, because it's really just takes one person to be like, that isn't right. So yeah, and I'll let you chime in.
Okay. I'm just gonna ask you to repeat it one more time so I can hit all my points.
What is inclusion beyond what we've talked about so far, which is more so beauty and makeup, or equity?
Inclusion beyond beauty. Okay, so the first thing that can be done is really creating like safe spaces in these work environments, in these companies, so that people of color, specifically Black people, feel comfortable speaking up. Because yes, these things get approved, but I know there's a Black person in the office who was like, this was some bull, and they just didn't feel safe to speak up out of being labeled like that angry Black person or that aggressive person. So creating equity, like emotional equity within these companies. Also, I just want to reiterate this point again, but pay people, amongst all, like, especially the most marginalized of people. Those, like, brands should really be paying those people the most, just because they are the face of your company and they're not just like mascots for you, like they are working for you. And I feel like the most I've been paid, like I've really just rode out for the brands. Like, so those are two things that I feel like can be done beyond just beauty.
Right. So I think we've talked a lot about what brands aren't really getting right, but back to you, Yaminah, again. I personally would love to hear about your experience working with Pattern and Tracee Ellis Ross. I feel like The campaign is beautiful, and it seems like they just get it. So what can you share? I know you said the NDA was a little crazy, but whatever you can share with us.
I do respect NDAs. If someone has Beyonce's contact, let her know. I respect them. No, it was a really peaceful set. Everything was just calm, like on set. There were Black department heads for just about every department. The creative director was Black. The photographer, Micaiah Carter, was Black. The stylist, the head stylist was Black, Samira Nasser. She does L. We had I feel like because she's been thinking about it since Girlfriends ended, so for like 11 years or so, 10, 11 years, you have a lot of time to think about your product, what you want it to be, how you want it to evolve. So the whole process was just really, really thoughtful. Yeah, I didn't even know that I was doing pattern until I really showed up for set. I didn't even know, she didn't tell us anything. So we just came to set off the strength. We didn't know who we were working with, nothing. It was just, I just showed up to set and Tracee Ellis was there with eye mask on, and I was like, okay, so this is what we're doing today. Cute. Took our phones, everything. But I just think it was really, really thoughtful, and that's something that I hope to see more on sets.
Cool. Last piece for each of you, if you could offer just one piece of advice to anyone who's sitting here who wants to work with brands or who wants to bring their own ideas to life without having to necessarily deny a group of people a seat at the table or step on somebody else to get there, what's your advice for that?
I would say just to really hone in on your why, and consequently then hone in on what your niche is going to be. I think sometimes when you are a content creator and you just want to create cool stuff, sometimes you do get lost kind of in the creation process of it all. But if you have a strict why, I want to amplify this cause, or I want to speak directly to this audience, all of your content, everything that you create is going to go back to that why, and it's going to make you be consistent, and it's going to help you find a niche of people that really, really mess with you. I was going to use another word. But yeah, so I would say really just kind of try to figure out, why am I doing this? What is really pushing me to create the type of content that I'm looking to create? And I think that is what keeps people going. And that's kind of what makes you unique. So, yeah.
My piece of advice for people who want to work with brands is, this is really hard because it's not overnight. And so you really, again, piggybacking off of what you said, you really have to find your why, because there are times at the beginning when you are probably going to work for free just because, not saying that you're not valuable. Everyone in this room is valuable, but brands may not see that as something to immediately invest in. But also just create stuff for free. Issa Rae said it, you need to network laterally, because then when you grow, everyone around you grows, and then you all, your whole community, if you call them your tribe, your homegirls, all of you guys have value as you guys rise together, because then they hold you accountable to always reach back. So I'm always trying to collaborate laterally. I'm not always just looking up. It's great to have people that you admire, who you aspire to work with. Tracee Ellis Ross was that for me. But I feel had I not just been out here just putting in the work, just shooting with my friends in the morning at Rucker Park for free, I don't feel like I would have been able to put myself out there as well in order to have those opportunities. So, just kind of collaborate amongst your friends, because that's also a safe space for you as well to bounce ideas off of.
Cool. Well, sadly, this conversation flew by. We don't have time for questions, but both of these ladies and myself, we are going to hang out at the STYLECASTER Beauty Bar for a little bit right after this. And if you haven't been, you should definitely check it out. It's very cute. We have hair touch-ups, makeup touch-ups. There's a cute little self-care moment happening at one of the booths. And we're doing a giveaway. So for those who are going to be here tomorrow, we have a big, lovely basket filled with almost $2,000 worth of products. It's real fancy and real nice, and You don't have to do a lot to possibly win. All you need to do is go hang out at the beauty bar, take a cute picture, make sure you tag us, #BlogHer19, and we're gonna look through and we're gonna pick a winner and give you the basket at the end of the day tomorrow. So make sure you do that. It's so easy. You shouldn't skip it. But before we go, we're gonna have an Ellen at the Oscars moment and take a selfie with this Fujifilm Instax replay. It's real cute. So I need everyone to smile, throw up a peace sign, something, and we're gonna jump in here. Are you guys ready? Are you ready? Come on. All right. I'm gonna turn this on first. All right. Come on, Yaminah and Ofunne.
Tell me where to go. Right here?
You come on this side.
Yeah.
All right. Everyone smile. You ready? 1, 2, 3. I think it worked. It worked. I got it. Thank you, guys.